What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk very briefly and very carefully about Clair Obscur Expedition 33. So, review scores are out, but I want to, just approach this very honestly in the beginning here by saying, they did reach out to me, and they actually did give me a code. Now, they gave me a code yesterday. Number one, super appreciated. This is a game that I have been backing since the beginning, and I've been constantly saying Game of the Year contender, Game of the Year contender. But just want to, just so everybody's aware of, the biasness and all that kind of stuff. So I've played about the first 2 hours. And then you also have these review scores of today. So I'm going to try to blend them, tell you kind of my feel so far, and then what other people are saying without getting too deep. Because let's start from the personal side of things, okay? I don't really want to show nor get too specific of those first couple hours because, look, sometimes I exaggerate for jokes, right? You got to entertain at least a little bit on YouTube. Otherwise, what are you doing here? But I'm going to tell you, just genuinely, this is one of the better openings I think you'll ever get for a game, period. Period. Not this month, not this year. This is one of the coolest, and I'm going to try to describe it a little bit better without getting too specific because I feel like telling you what happens, it would actually kind of ruin it. You need to do it yourself. So I think first what hits you is the visual style is so unbelievably good, and it's kind of a mix of okay, up close, everything looks good. It's got that classic RPG thing where it's when it kind of flashes back and forth between characters, you say, okay, it's not lip syncing perfectly, but it kind of gives you those old school type vibes, but it's got so much style. It's got so much flair, right? As soon as the game lets you freaking start walking, or actually even before that, the draw distance, the looking at things that are hundreds upon hundreds or thousands of feet away from you, and the lighting and just how unbelievably beautiful everything looks. Again, I'm not exaggerating when I say also just that visual style, one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Genuinely serious. But the thing that really got me is, look, we've all played, most likely, lots of RPGs, lots of JRPGs. One of the main things these games do, right, that they have to do to be good, they have to get you into that world, especially if it's new. You got to set up the lore. You got to set up the world. You got to set up the characters. You got to do all of this. And world building is probably a way to just generalize it, right? How quickly and effectively this game gets you in and sets the tone, okay? You talk about setting the tone. I don't know if a game has ever done it so well. Yes, it's probably recency bias, but how you feel as they're describing and telling you, and again, I don't really want to get too into it, but they're setting up the story. They're setting up, okay, here's what happens every so often, and here's what happens with people and all this stuff. It's actually very depressing. But it's not a depressing where you hate your life and you say, okay, I just can't play this game because it's bringing me too down. There's this, because it also tries to balance it with a little bit of a hope type thing, right? The expedition. The whole point of the expedition is to stop this nightmare type situation that's going on. So it's got that glimmer of hope, okay? But the rest of it is just very dark and very depressing, but it's so beautifully done. And I said this leading into the game. We see the combat, we see the voice acting, and we see the story synopsis, but it's different, I think, just kind of knowing those bullet points or being told those bullet points and then jumping in and, again, seeing just how freaking well they're able to establish everything in literally an hour. In an hour, you already love characters and you're sad for characters. In an hour, you already set up the entire, maybe not the entire, right? But you definitely set up, okay, here's what the world's been dealing with. Here's how things work. Here's how things just worked. And here's how you're going to stop it. And they do that very naturally in just a short amount of time, because honestly, in terms of the time I've put in, combat has been on the back end. It's something that I feel as you play, and we've heard from these reviews, 30, 40, 50, 60 hours. The gameplay is super good. It's everything that it was advertised as, very dynamic, and that you always have to be paying attention. It's actually a bit more, don't know if fluid is the right word, but you have to you really have to be on top of things. When you're dodging or you're parrying, you can almost kind of spam it, but your timing does have to be just right. So I'm definitely impressed by it. It's just not something that I've played, a boatload of to have too strong of an opinion. Now, the reason I wanted to start off with all of that, right, is number one, to try to sell the game, because I really, in the first couple hours alone, I feel like it would sell it to almost anybody, okay? But the thing to connect it to today and everybody else, right? So I have not played this game for 50, 60 hours. I played this game for 2, okay? But everything that we're seeing people say is pretty much an extension of what I just said. And that's what makes me feel like, selfishly, and having a biasness, I guess, on myself, it makes me feel very good, because something I was thinking about last night was like, okay, there's story like every couple minutes. There's incredible characters, incredible dialogue. The acting is so freaking good. The writing is so freaking strong. If they can keep that and not have lulls, not have this big like 10-hour, like arc where it's just weaker, if they can do this the whole game, this is a game of the year. This is game of the year, and it's got to be beaten by something else. The thing that the reviews are, right? So these reviews, freaking low 90s. I thought it was going to be high 80s, so it's actually a little bit higher than I thought. Pretty much exactly what I just said. That everything that I hoped that the first couple hours are, they are. And then the rest of the game is still that. It doesn't let up. The combat never goes bad. The combat is always elite. The story never lets up. There is no weak part to the story. There are no weak characters. You think the story is emotional in the beginning, the story is emotional 5 hours in. The story is emotional 20 hours in. And by the way, that almost scares me, because it's like the writing and the world building is so freaking good. How can you actually maintain that for 30 hours? Now, I can vouch for the first 2, but everybody else can vouch for the whole entire game, right? So it's like, that is, I still got to decide for myself, and I will, and I'll do a full review hopefully in a week or so. But that's kind of why I wanted to introduce, what I feel of it, and, what I thought just in the first couple hours, because these early reviews, they very much match up, and just really, that's the takeaway. Everything I said, it just continues for the entire game. And I mean, that makes me feel so very happy. And I mean, everybody's opinion's different. We'll see. But I mean, I'm in love so far with the world, with the characters, with the story. And if you can keep just that part up, I mean, I think the combat is awesome, and it's just not something I've delved too deep into, because we're still kind of getting into the game just a couple hours in. But, if you're able to just even keep that freaking story. So let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.